Welcome back to Grasping the Gridiron. I'm your host, Zach Thummel, and today we'll be looking at my top 10 linemen in the class of 2025. Alright, so before we get started here, I'm going to be talking about a lot of guys and where they, how they play on film. And if there's any part that, you have any questions about or want me to send you clips of specific games, please feel free to ask me and I can send you what I watched and why I feel the way about that player and some specific clips too that I believe will really highlight what I'm talking about. Alright, so we'll start with my wildcard selection. So the wildcard selection is someone regardless of where they're at in the draft, but outside of my top 10 that I think would be a player that could have an impact on a team. And that offensive lineman is Willie Lampkin, the guard/center from North Carolina. So right off the bat, we've talked about this guy before. He's 5'10", 279, extremely undersized, and he has a relative athletic score of 3.05. So he's a guy that when you look at him on paper, you're wondering, why is this someone that NFL teams would even want? And it's a fair question on paper, but the minute that you crack on the tape and watch this guy play, he probably has the best fundamentals and technique of anyone in this draft. And quite frankly, he probably has had some of the best technique of anyone we've seen in recent years and in history, just in terms of playing with natural leverage. I mean, 5'10", 279, right? So off the bat, he's undersized. But I think of a guy like Jason Kelce, who is really agile, run game type. This guy would fit perfectly in any zone scheme, anything where you involve pullers. As far as, getting to the second level and, getting two guys in space and, going through guys, not two guys. There's no one that I've really seen better as far as Willie Lampkin. He is someone that could play a fullback, tight end, H-back type of goal line role for you. He could just be a guard. He could be a center. But regardless of where you put him, I think he's going to have success because of that ability to climb to the next level and make contact with people. I think floor-wise, worse, he's kind of a Patrick Ricard type player, and I think ceiling-wise, he could be a Jason Kelce type player that dominates this league for years to come. Again, that natural leverage that I talk about is huge, and those of you that work with the offensive line or understand the offensive line a little bit more, you get how great leverage is and how it can come into play here. And that's A, created by your stance, or B, created by where you try to attack on someone. So a guy that's 6'4" can play with great leverage, but a 5'10" it's a lot easier to play with natural leverage. So I'll be interested to see how it translates to the NFL, because on tape he's not really an explosive physical freak of like an athlete strength-wise, but he really does have phenomenal technique. So that's going to be the most entertaining watch for me and my wild card player. And coming in at number 10 is Marcus Mbow from Purdue. He's a tackle, 6'4", 300 pounds. So right off the bat, not to the length or lack thereof of Willie Lampkin, but definitely still undersized in comparison to NFL linemen, being 300 pounds flat. So you would, as an NFL scout or a line coach, you would like your player to be a little heavier, but definitely enough at the NFL level. This is a player that is incredibly quick on tape, doesn't have a relative athletic score listed, but just like I said, on tape, you watch, he's incredibly quick, incredibly great to the point of attack. He really does a great job for being a guy that's 6'4". Obviously not, your tallest of tackles, but he really does a great job of using that to his advantage by sinking his hips and playing with that natural leverage that we talk about, or playing with leverage without having the natural leverage there. And like I talked about earlier, where you don't have to be 5'10", you can be 6'4" and sink your hips and use your point of attack to play with better leverage. So Mbow's a fella that I just, as far as run game type goes, can play in both a gap scheme or a zone scheme, and you really didn't have any major flaws pass pro wise. There were things though, as far as lack of length. I saw that I just really it jumped off the charts just on a couple plays, and so that's something that is definitely a cause for concern, but not something that I am going to think will be incredibly limiting. And a guy like Mbow could realistically end up playing inside on the offensive line too. So, if you end up drafting him, know that he could potentially have some versatility, and a player that, while is undersized for your standard tackle, is someone that could easily kick inside on paper, and someone that I think could do a good job at that. Coming in at number 9 is Josh Simmons from Ohio State. He's a tackle as well, 6'5", 317 pounds, and like Mbow, he didn't have a relative athletic score available, but he's the only other one in my prospect list without a relative athletic score available, so that will not be a concern going forward. He's a balanced run game type, could play in a zone scheme or a gap scheme or a combination of the two, and it was a guy that only played in 6 games this year before a season-ending injury, so someone that doesn't have that much tape available this year, but looked good the year previous and in the 6 games that he was playing. And actually, was on a team that went on to win the national championship, of course, in Ohio State. So, I just wonder how much better that team could have been with him on the field. So you look at what he presents. He's a big-bodied tackle as far as 6'5" goes, length goes. I really would like to see more from him, obviously on tape, and so there wasn't much that I saw, or much that I could see from him. But a lot of other scouts are really, really high on the guy, and someone that really projects as a first rounder, and had a workout with Kansas City, and so he just is someone that could be really a really good option for a team in the NFL, but a guy that I really don't have too much to say on because there isn't too much available, and hence why I have him at number 9. It's just I'm gonna trust what I saw junior year wise and what I saw in the 6 games as far as playing really great pass pro. There were a couple run reps that I saw that I didn't like, but I can clip those up or at least have a link to that game. I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but again, anything as far as questions and clips that you guys want to see, as far as just to make sure I do my homework, please feel free to ask away, and I can send some of these clips. Coming in at number 8 is Zabel from North Dakota State. He's projected as a guard here, and he's 6'6", 312 pounds with a 9.49 relative athletic score. So this guy is an athletic anomaly at 6'6", 312 pounds. Obviously played FCS ball for North Dakota State, so the big question will be, will this game translate to the NFL level, being from a smaller school? And my consensus is yes. I believe that he will, especially seeing guys like Cody Mock have success. I believe that Zabel possesses the skill set, and when you look at the relative athletic score too, he definitely has all of the natural tools at the next level, and a guy that could play in a balanced run scheme like we talked about with our previous two guys in Simmons and Mbow. Zabel's very much similar, cut from a similar cloth of where he can play in multiple run schemes, and not to say that anyone else that's listed as a different run game type can't play in multiple run schemes. It's just that they aren't necessarily preferred, in my opinion, to be in a balanced scheme if they're an agile guy. But with Zabel, the big question is going to be the weight and really is the competition that he's played against. Does it hold up to NFL competition? And obviously, I hope that it does. And I think that with successive guys that have played at the FCS level recently, especially on the O-line specifically, I think that Zabel has really good odds of succeeding at the next level. But to me, it ultimately comes down to where he ends up and what fit that is. Coming in at number 7, I've got Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia. He's 6'3", 310 pounds, and has a 9.84 relative athletic score. So, I mean, Jared Wilson, just to me, is one of my favorite players in this class to watch on tape. He played really well with the guys around him, and just like Willie Lampkin, the guy that I mentioned previously, Jared Wilson really just got to the second level with a unique ability and a unique authority. He was very much similar in the fact that when he was going to the second level and there was no one head up on him, he would be able to get there with ease and make really great contact punches. I love the way that Jared Wilson would pull on screens and pull and power and counter, and they would use Wilson as a puller, as a center, and power, counter, and trap. Which was really, really unique and something that was fun for me to watch on film. And at 6'3", 310 pounds, he's a guy that can really succeed at the NFL. Has the size, really an agile guy and run game type. I see him in a zone scheme type of fit at the next level, but. He really could, again, be a balanced guy like some of the guys we've talked about previously, but he definitely would fit in an agile scheme and thrive in an agile scheme, and a really, really unique athlete for the center position. So a guy that I just think is NFL ready and the number one center on my board, and I think one of the top interior linemen, and obviously coming in at number 7 on my overall offensive line list. Coming in at number 6 is Josh Conerly Jr. from Oregon. He's a 6'5", 311-pound tackle, 8.84 relative athletic score, and a guy that I really like is a run just monster, both in balanced, both in gap scheme, zone scheme. I really liked his point of attack and outside zone. Really did a great job in counter. He moved 3 techs and 4 techs with ease and really was dominant there. And I like how he pulled in counters too. And so as far as the run game goes, I think he has a full skill set that projects well and has a good profile for moving to the next level in the NFL, and could be a guard or a tackle. And, as far as pass pro, this is a guy that played against JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Abdul Carter, just went against really great pass rushers and was a main contributing factor to a team that won the Big Ten and then went to the college football semifinals. And that was really, a team leader on a team that was a juggernaut up until they got to Pasadena. So all of that, for me, projects really well for Josh Conerly Jr., and I think he's going to be a great impact player at the next level in the NFL. Coming in at number 5 is Donovan Jackson, the guard from Ohio State. He's 6'4", 315 pounds, and has a 9 relative athletic score. He's got a balanced run game type in my book, and The thing that impresses me with Jackson is he's projected as a guard in the NFL, but he played the last 6 games of the regular season and the playoffs, and a majority of what I would say is the more important snaps of that season at left tackle, because he was filling in for Josh Simmons, the left tackle for Ohio State, that went out with the season-ending injury 6 games into the year, and Donovan Jackson filled in as a guy that just projects as a guard. But you obviously, when I flipped on the tape, I was impressed with what he did at tackle, and the fact that he played on a team that went on to win a national championship, and that's not the position that you're gonna play in the NFL, is unbelievable, and I think just gives a tremendous upside when you're looking at how someone projects in the NFL, because he can play tackle in a pinch if you have some depth concerns, or he's a guy that can come in and play guard immediately, maybe some center, and especially with that 9 relative athletic score, he's got a complete NFL profile, and someone that I'm really, really excited to see where he ends up, because I think he can be a really key player and an impact player year 1 for a team that gets him in the right position. At number 4, I've got Tyler Booker, guard from Alabama. He's 6'5", 321 pounds, and is a power run game type in my book. And this is where the red flags really are with Tyler Booker. He's got a 3.68 relative athletic score, and just obviously doesn't move too well in terms of the relative athletic profile. But when I flipped on the tape and watched Tyler Booker play, this was someone that played with extreme power, and so the ability to move time wise is not necessarily relative when you're a guy that is 320 pounds and can move people off the line of scrimmage with elite strength and elite force. I think it will apply to the NFL level so tremendously, and he's someone that's going to be a gap scheme guy, but can play in a zone and can do double team stuff as well. He pulled decently well, but you would like a little bit more speed, but he certainly, being a guard, is going to, in a base scheme, if you're running back base or just a quick B gap power, he is really not going to have to move too far. So it's the pass protection and the running in the counters of the world and the screens of the world, where it just his mobility in space is really a big concern. But beyond that, he is probably the strongest lineman in this class from what I've seen on tape. He just, as far as technique too, he just plays with a really firm base, and is, as far as one-on-one at the line of scrimmage, I think he stacks up with some of the with anyone in this class and anyone really in the NFL as far as just sheer face mask on face mask contact. But I'll be interested to see where he goes up, or where he ends up as well. And a guy that played in the SEC, played against a ton of really relevant and quality competition. So I think that the strength portion of his game will translate well. And as I like to say with projecting NFL players, can you do one thing really well? Because at the next level, that's what you're going to have to do in order to be successful. And Tyler Booker has the power and the technique to certainly play at the next level in a gap scheme or a variety of schemes, surrounded by the right linemen and the right people. Coming in at number 3 on my offensive lineman list is Armand Mbow, tackle out of Missouri. He's 6'4", 332 pounds with a 9.9 relative athletic score, and is a player that projects for both a gap scheme and a zone scheme in my book. This is a guy that I watched on tape in 3 SEC games, and was a guy that just stood out in every single one. Every single rep was admirable, and on the ones where you would have more desire in the result, because I wouldn't even say there were really plays that he messed up on that I saw. And granted, it was a 3-game sample size in the SEC, but Mbow really made minimal mistakes, and in the plays that he did well, he just flashed such an athletic prowess and strength level that I really liked. And he had a great point of attack. He would get underneath defenders at 6'4", which I really respect. And I think when you're 332 pounds and you can run a 4.91 40-yard dash, I think that's probably one of the most impressive athletic feats I've seen in recent years. And with 31 reps on the bench, just confirmed strength, and a 1.74 10-yard split, it's just unbelievable, because the offensive linemen aren't going to ask to go further than 10 yards realistically on run or pass plays if it's a screen. And then on pass plays, you're obviously going strictly back for the most part, unless it's play action. So all that 10-yard split is really huge for Mbow's athletic profile, and just that really confirms what I saw on tape, and I'm excited to see how he does in the NFL, because I think he's a Hall of Fame caliber player, and someone that I think will be a really, really nice and versatile pickup for a variety of teams, because he played at right tackle but flashed an ability to do anything that you ask a lineman to do. So he just will be a really fun watch at the next level, and a player that you should be really excited about if he ends up on your team. At number 2 in my list, I've got Will Campbell, the tackle from LSU. He's 6'5", 319 pounds, and ran a 4.98 40-yard dash with a 1.75 10-yard split, totaling to a 9.91 relative athletic score. So this guy is, just like Mbow, a really, really freakish athletic player, and someone that has both the tape to go with the athletic feats to back it up as far as the testing goes and the numbers go. This guy has really just been a projectable for a long time now, and I think that caused some people to sour on him just with some consistency bias of talking about him so frequently that maybe in comparison to other people he started to sour a little bit. But this is, I feel like, a consensus number 1 or number 2 pick amongst a majority of the scouts, and someone that has been this guy for a long time. But when you look at what I've seen on tape, again, 3 SEC contests that I watched, and he really just played off the charts. And I also watched him against USC, so I watched a non-conference game, and he was really just, there was nothing to me that was a red flag on tape. There were some plays where he reached and started to lean forward, but I think a lot of this will be ironed out. Anything that's of concern, like I mentioned, the leaning, and anything that is further seen by NFL scouts and NFL line coaches, I firmly believe that whatever it is will be ironed out at the next level, because I didn't see anything that was of real alarm, other than just that reaching that I mentioned, and that can potentially cause some bad habits to develop at the next level. But overall, I think when you look at the trajectory and the character arc of Will Campbell, I think he's dealt with a lot of the noise really well, and has been a proven leader for Kelly in that locker room and at LSU, and has played with some really, really top tier players. And I just think then when you look at the tape too, he's not necessarily the number 1 surefire blue chip prospect that we thought on tape, but he is for certain going to be a contributor at the next level. And in that character development, dealt with the arm length stuff where it really ends up not being that big of a factor. And I think he can project as both a tackle and a guard at the next level, and a balanced scheme fit. And I look at this relative athletic score, and he's an athletic freak and a one-of-one athlete at the tackle position, and that's what is needed more today in the NFL. And I think that he'll fill any role that is needed and can develop any deficiency that is needed to be developed. And my number one lineman in the class of 2025 is Kelvin Banks Jr., the 6'5", 315-pound tackle from Texas. He has an 8.32 relative athletic score with a balanced run game type in my book. And the thing that really stands out about him is how well he played against the quality of competition. So this is a guy that played against Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. He played against Jalen Walker and Michael Williams from Georgia, and I watched him against Kentucky as well and Clemson. So this is just a really, really great body of work on paper, but then just in terms of the quality of teams that he's playing. But then when you look at what he did in those games, he did not seemingly mess up in my eye. I mean, you could nitpick it to death, but in terms of the critical pieces and elements of being a tackle and offensive lineman at the NFL level, there was nothing that he messed up on. Everything technique-wise in those 3 games was fundamentally sound, and I just have loved everything that I've seen from him extended beyond that, because those are the first 3 games that I watched, but then I also went and watched Arkansas and Florida as well as I got more time, and it was the same thing. And I got the same general consensus from scouts. It's just going to be, can his athletic profile and just overall profile hold up at the next level? And I have some questions as well, just in terms of Ben sometimes, but the technique was impeccable, and the technique in terms for pass pro and the run game, was amazing. And he pulled well, created a wall encounter, was a phenomenal screen game guy. There is no hole in his game, and that really is alarming. And I think there's one thing that every player has other than him, and just for me, Banks, the only thing you could nitpick is bend, but I don't even think that's a fair criticism, because he played so consistently and with such a consistently difficult schedule with great technique that I think any concern will be ironed out tenfold, especially in comparison to Campbell and Mbow and these guys. He's just a refined, polished player that's played a good amount of football and had some great starts and was asked to do a variety of things. I mean, Steve Sarkisian's playbook's pretty complex, and they did, trap, counter, power, inside zone, outside zone. They ran a variety of different run game things, and then the amount of motion and just movement that is required in that offense to be able to be the blind side in that offense and make the college football playoff. He obviously has a great resume, and I think he will probably be the best lineman out of all of these guys, and I think without a doubt he is a surefire NFL player, and I think he can be an NFL Hall of Famer. It's just really the question with Banks is, where does he end up, and is a team going to keep him at tackle, guard, and what does that look like in comparison to who's around him? Because I think, like any lineman, you're going to need help around you, and that is really going to be the determining factor as to if Banks succeeds at the next level. But at number 1, again, Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas. Thank you for listening to Grasping the Gridiron. I'm your host, Zach Thummel, and as always, please like and subscribe on YouTube, share on Spotify, and leave your suggestions in the comments section on both platforms and on any of the social media. We're going to be doing a lot more stuff here for the NFL draft, so I'll have all of my position rankings coming out here, and it'll be a similar style, and there will be graphics to go along with that on social media, so stay tuned for more NFL draft content.